So when I was a baby, I was taken away from my mother. I have my internal GPS that's connected to the infinite, to source, to God. And so my commitment is helping women co-create with the infinite. I'll tell you one thing, and this still makes me tear up to this day, is before I met her in person, she sang to me. And I remember her singing to me as a child. Oh my gosh. I just have to say that if you don't feel like you resonate with the people around you, keep going.
Meet our sister, Loralei Bayette. She's a speaker. She's an educator. She is a coach to female entrepreneurs that change the world. This woman is a force to be reckoned with. She embodies her feminine like no other. Her story is so inspiring. She was adopted at a young age and learned her power as she grew into herself. Big womb energy. Woo! Let's get into it, sis. What up, sis? Welcome to Girl We Got This. Welcome to one of my favorite months. It's Black History Month. International Women's Month is next month, and I get the most incredible women sitting next to me. Welcome, Loralei. Welcome, baby.
So happy to be here.
How are you feeling?
Feeling amazing.
Look, your story is going to be one that I think is going to impact so many of you. So we're going to get into it because this woman, Loralei Bayette, is incredible. She's a speaker, she's an educator, and she's a coach to female empowered, embodied bosses. Like, did you just hear what I said? So all the female empowered women that are bosses out here, this woman coaches them. And I think that's such a powerful title to take on.
Yeah.
Because as a woman, to carry the torch for other women to be their highest selves, that takes a lot of excavation. And I just want to say thank you for having the courage to share your story with us today.
Thank you for having me. Yes.
So let's unravel you.
Okay.
Because I always think this, what we become is probably what we have lacked in our past. So as an embodiment coach, there probably was a time in your life where you did not feel embodied. You did not feel in your body. Can we start there? Can we start maybe in childhood? When did this idea of disembodiment started to make you want to take this path of learning how to embody this? This. Tell us.
Yeah, that's actually a really good perspective of looking at it. I never thought about it like that before, but you're right. Early on in my life, there was a series of events that were, the foundation of it was abandonment. And so it wasn't until I read this book called Sacred Contracts by Carolyn Myss and she asked the question, like, what is the sacred contract that you were born into? And how do you alchemize that into your purpose? And I realized that it was abandonment.
Wow.
Yeah, so when I was a baby, I was taken away from my mother, and I didn't meet her until I was 22 years old. And in that, I was put in an orphanage where my father's side of the family got me out, and I lived with a few people on that side of the family. And I had to, being in different homes, in different dynamics, think about it. Think about your family dynamic.
Yes.
Like how your parents are, their rules, your neighborhood, your school. I was put in different situations throughout my life. So not being connected to my parents, I think, and being in chaotic conditions, I think I had to really tune into my inner voice. Although I was disconnected from my body, somehow this power of the spirit didn't leave. I was connected to my intuitive sense. And I used to tell people, like, I'm obsessed with what I cannot see. And I don't know how to explain that, but I'm just obsessed with what I cannot see. And I think it was my felt sense because I had to rely on that. Being alone a lot, being in different environments, different families, different conditions, and most of them chaotic, but also loving. So in that, I had to find my own sense of belonging. And I did a timeline therapy on myself where I went back to when I was abandoned by my mother.
Wow.
And you know what's interesting about that is that I never forgot that day. I still remember what I was wearing, and I never knew why.
Really?
Yes. I was like...
How old were you?
I don't even... 4?
Wow.
But what's interesting about it is that I went to fly to see my mother. I found her when I was 18, flew to see her when I was like 22. And when I saw her, I was like, I remember that day. You have a picture from that day. Why do I remember that day? Because I never knew why I remembered that day. And she was like, that was the last day that I saw you.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow, the imprints on our mind.
Yeah.
That is so incredible to me. Just knowing that you had that imprinted, what you had on. Do you remember your mother?
I don't remember her being there. I wrote her out.
Wow.
So even when my therapist said, do you remember the last day you saw your mother? And I was like, I think I just smiled. I rewrote it. So then when I did my timeline therapy, I dropped back in and I hovered above that little girl who felt like there was chaos all around her. And I hovered above and I asked, what is the soul's lesson? And it took me a second, especially when you're asking questions like that about abandonment or other traumas. What was the soul's lesson? And it was that I'm a child of God, that I cannot be abandoned. And I went back into that memory with that understanding. And now when I think about that day, it's bright, it's sparkly. I feel liberated, but it took me time, and I'm still, moving through the layers of not abandoning myself.
Wow.
So yeah.
The courage that you have, Loralei, is like, my eyes are watering, because I'm like, seeing you as this little girl, right? A lot of us have lived in dysfunctional family settings, right? A lot of us have lived in spaces where we're kids, we're innocent. We are just dropped into these spaces. My sister is my half-sister, and she came to our family after foster home, so I know how much uncomfortability that has created in a child and a woman. And now you're trying to figure everything out along the way, right? Here you are, 18, 22. What made you want to meet your mother? Because I think that's something that will relate to a lot of people. What was that moment? Do you remember that, like, that ping? I want to meet my mother. I'm going to find her, and this is what I'm going to say. Did you have anything that happened to you?
I always knew I was going to find her. It was like a knowing.
Wow.
And I'm very intuitive, and I always had dreams that are now confirmed. With my mother and my father, I always had dreams. And they're like, how did you know that? And I had this dream that she was I didn't interpret it correctly at the time, but it was a dream that she was in some kind of facility, but I thought she was facilitating, not being the person in the facility. Turns out she's schizophrenic. So she wasn't able to be there the way that I wanted her to. And I just remember I was 18 years old, and I was at the beach, and I just felt like it's time. So I went and I just shouted it at the beach. It was like late at night, and I just said, I'm ready to find my mother. And I declared it. And then I went on the computer, and I spent like $5 here, $20 there, $30 there, all these little searches, and I'm hunting her down. Yeah. I finally find her, and she's, hello, who is this? Wow. Very slow, very diminished spirit. And now when I speak to her, hello, Loralei. Oh, you've been the greatest. And I'm like, whoa, the power that connection had for the both of us. She was in a slumber when I met her. And so we've cultivated a relationship over time, and now she's more charismatic. I feel more whole.
Wow.
But I kind of just knew.
Yeah.
And so funny, synchronicities.
Yeah.
On the way to see my mother for the first time, they go, Loralei. And I go, oh. And it was the woman in front of me. Her name was Loralei. I thought that was so interesting. And I was like, what kind of synchronicity was that?
Wow.
But there was little synchronicities like that all along the way. Yeah.
Take me to that moment where you met your mother. What were you feeling internally? What were you thinking? How did you feel when you met her, when you reconnected with her?
I'll tell you one thing, and this still makes me tear up to this day, is before I met her in person, she sang to me. And I remember her singing to me as a child. Oh my gosh.
Wow.
Yeah, I remember her singing to me as a child. And that's what I do remember from my mother, was she was always singing to me. So when she sang to me, the sound of her voice pierced through every memory, everything, and connected straight to my heart. And I was like, whoa. And I cried right away. It was like on command, I recognized that voice. And that was really powerful for me, because I was like, oh my gosh, I have a mother. You know, what's interesting is, and maybe you can relate, when you don't have your parents, just because you meet your mother doesn't mean they're your mother yet. Just because I got closer to my father doesn't mean that he's my father yet. So it took time for my father to feel. I remember the moment I felt, oh, this is what it feels like to have a father.
I finally found a fitted baseball hat that fits all of our hair texture. Yes, no more straightening, no more damaging our curls. You can actually nourish your hair in this baseball hat. Crazy, right? Let me show you. I'm obsessed with this color for spring. Check out the satin lining all inside here. These are your hair elastics. No more hair elastics on your wrist. No hat hair, no frizz.
And I'm still waiting for that with my mother, to be honest. I don't have that yet. But there was a shift through working through those challenges, through showing up open and available, through not blaming them, but rather healing together. I was able to feel, and I always, if it's healthy, persist in those relationships, because it was beautiful for me to feel that, before my father passed away, to say, this is what it feels like to have a father.
Wow.
This is what it feels like to have a mother.
This is like so impactful on so many levels. And I'm laughing out of sorrow because I see you. And I can see little Loralei like seeking and searching, and what that must have felt like, and the joy and the courage and the bravery and that determination. I see that in you now as a woman, and it makes sense that you are embodying this woman that you are today, and being able to be guides to so many women, specifically just from the story alone. It's courageous. So thank you for sharing that, because I know it's very intimate. I want to ask you about your father. What was it like connecting with him? Because as women, I feel like that's probably one of the most intimate, difficult, but loving. It's a very complex relationship. I had one, and my father was always present. What was that like?
When I reached out to my father to really get close to him, was because I was having a recurring dream that he died in different ways, maybe like once a year. And I said, when I was 16, I said, I think this means we're supposed to get close. Can we get close? And he was like, yeah. So we got close. It was not easy at first. I mean, I'm 16.
Yes. What does get close mean? Just so the audience knows.
I think just put more attention.
Yes.
To actually show up when you say you are. To cultivate a relationship where we know each other, and I'm not just a child in your world through passing, And my father was doing his best, and we became best friends. Best friends. The funny thing is, not every woman that had their father present will experience that.
Yes.
So even though I didn't experience my father as a father until later, I experienced him as a best friend, where he instilled in me so much. He empowered me. He thought I was the most amazing. You know how parents are. That's the cool thing about having parents. Yes. They think you're so amazing. Yes. Yes. And I'm like, oh, I missed that. Yeah. So yeah, it was tough at first because, he had his problems. And I was more of a parentified child, so I had to be the more mature one in a lot of the ways. But it was worth it. It was worth it. I don't think that if I can go back in time, I wouldn't change a thing. It was worth every struggle, because now once I got close to him and we healed that relationship, my relationship with men changed. My relationship with God changed. Yes. Because my father wound had changed.
I am so glad you brought this up. Once you mend relationships, everything changes internally. And I think a lot of us hold on to this grudge from our parents. And I want our audience, sis, I want you to know that our parents did the best they could with what they had. And their parents did the best they could to what they had. And it's an ancestral domino effect. That's just what it is. And I feel like a lot of people have challenges accepting that, or forgiving them, or keep the distance, or don't want to reconnect because of the anger and the pain. But I had to share this with one of my girlfriends. I said, baby, that anger and pain is just eating you up. Love is what cures all. Loving someone and accepting someone for who they are, that's love. Yeah. I think that's the purest form of love. And what you did, reconnecting with your parents, you probably gave them the biggest source of love that they've ever experienced in their life. It was you. That's why your mother's back to herself.
Yeah.
You are their life force. Like, what a gift. I'm just thinking of your mom, like how probably grateful she was that she birthed this creation into this world that was ambitious and driven enough to find me again.
Yeah.
Like, I'm proud of you.
Thank you.
I'm so proud of you. So now you're taking these steps and you're becoming your best self. Did you go to therapy? Did you go to classes? Like, what was the mindset going into this and healing and getting back into your body as a woman?
I think that before you can truly accept and love, you have to accept and love the parts of you that do feel upset. I had to not only heal that with my parents, I had to heal that with every home that I lived in. And so I had to say, it wasn't until I said, you know what? I was abused in this situation. And I got angry. Because some of us, we're not allowed to be angry. We're not allowed to be who we are. And I had to rediscover that. And as I honored my own, then I could come back to that person and love them as they are and not expect or project what I want them to be. Because the other people that I grew up with, I had my own stuff with them. And so I went to school for psychology, go figure. Yes, as you should. As you should. Makes sense.
Yes, we got to figure it out.
Right. I went to school for psychology, and then I had a psychologist for a little bit, didn't really resonate. I really encourage and employ people to find the match. It's like dating.
Yes.
Don't give up on therapy altogether because you had a bad experience, because people are people and there's different types of experiences you can have. But it wasn't until I was about 24 years old that I met my mentor, who's still a mentor to me now. She's like a mother to me. She changed my life.
Wow.
She changed my life. That was when my spiritual awakening happened. I remember sitting and I go into her office and she goes, I know why you're here. I didn't even speak.
What?
Yeah, I sat down. I know why you're here. I think I spoke for like a couple minutes.
Yeah.
And then she was, I know why you're here. You want me to fix everything up. You have these little holes in your wall. You want me to patch it up. But I'm not going to do that. I'm going to break the whole wall. Didn't have an environment where vulnerability was welcome. So you're telling me that but through that process of challenging myself, like one thing about me as a client, if you tell me to do something, I'm doing it and then some. So she got me to a point where I realized that my internal reality was the reason for my external experience, that I had full ownership, full responsibility, full accountability, full control, not control in that way, but I could determine how my reality looks and create it. I can create my own reality now. Yes. Now that I'm coming home to myself, not outsourcing that to other people. Now that I stopped abandoning myself, and that's a whole nother story, but that's still a journey. But it's easy to blame someone, and you can say, hey, this really hurt. This felt bad. I don't like this. That wasn't right. That was wrong of that person. And where can I take accountability? Because now when I see certain people in my life, certain figures that took care of me, but didn't have boundaries before. Now my compassion is coupled with firm boundaries. My firm boundaries protect my softness. After I finally got to this point where I feel safe enough to feel soft and vulnerable and loving after the history that I had, it's my job to protect that. Yeah.
Wow. How did you stay soft?
I think a lot of us women that have lived this life, regardless whether you have a similar journey as Loralei or not, the journey of self-discovery and embodiment, you go through a lot of challenges, a lot of obstacles that harden us as women. And I feel like a lot of us are hardened.
I want to know, how did you stay soft? I heard you say boundaries. Now you have boundaries around compassion. I think that's something that I'm working on now as a woman. How did you stay soft? I feel like a lot of us right now, we're trying to stay soft or get back to the feminine or whatever you guys want to call it nowadays. How did you stay soft? Because I think that is a gift. I admire that about you. And I think there's such teaching there.
It's a good question because I wasn't always that way for sure. I was the opposite, actually. My firmness and just started integrating my masculine in a very healthy way. Boundaries, ownership, responsibility, being firm, being direct, you know. But before that, I first had to come back to my feminine energy, feeling safe, feeling softer. But I don't believe, this is just my personal belief, this is an opinion, I don't believe that you can be soft and surrendered without connecting to something larger than you. It wasn't until I connected to the infinite, knowing that it was guiding me. And I only knew that it was guiding me. And I was being led and I was being supported every step of the way because I was connected to my body. And being connected to my body, I said, what if I just listened to my body? What if I just listened to my intuition, how it was guiding me, knowing that this body is connected to the infinite. And as it was guiding me and miracles started to occur, I gained self-trust. And I was like, oh, you can drop me off anywhere in the world and I'll be okay because I have my internal GPS that's connected to the infinite, to source, to God. And in that, now I can soften. Now I feel safe to connect to my power.
Ooh, that's a whole lesson. I hope y'all hit rewind right now because that was a whole word. You hear me? What? I will be rewinding this episode and listening to this over and over because that is the key. Loralei,
There's so much power in what you just said. Knowing yourself deeply, taking the time. How long do you think it took for you to get there? Because I want people to understand that this journey is a forever journey. To get here, it took a lot of work, like a lot of work. How long do you think it took you to get to this space?
I call everything a practice.
Yes.
Because you're either in practice or you're out of practice. And so the more practiced I am, the more skillful I am. I have cultivated an introspective intelligence that guides me. I know myself, I can shift, and that's the alchemist to me. The woman that's her highest to me. Being the woman, the embodied woman is being the alchemist that can co-create her reality with the infinite. But you cannot do that if you do not know yourself. And there's no measurement. It's only, are you practicing or are you not? And as you practice, you become more and more skilled. And certain problems aren't problems anymore. And you adopt a new problem. But my problems now are better problems. My problems now are pretty cool. I'm like, oh, this is my problem?
Yes.
That's great.
Bring it on, baby.
Yes.
Wow. Tools. If you could give our audience some tools and modalities that you use to help get to this space, whether it's a meditation or breath work, how did you use your body, therapy? What were like some tools that we can use as a collective, as a sisterhood, to get back into our body?
I think the first thing in this era is to be mindful of distraction. And the universe can't get in when there's a busy signal. And there is a busy signal when you are overdoing anything, overachieving, overstimulation, overfunctioning. You can kind of see if you are one of those people who overfunctions by your relationship with men, or if you have a relationship with a woman. But in your relationships, if you have a tendency to be anxiety or need the answer now or to avoid or whatever that is, that shows you how you're relating to yourself and your reality and your spirit. So the first step is, can you quiet the noise so that you can be in tune with your subtle whispers and the subtle sensations that are happening in your body and directing you? And now that you're in tune with it, can you be obedient to that? When you go into your mind, when you think you have to figure something out, when you get into the density of, I have to figure this out, can you surrender it, drop into your body, and use that as a guide instead? And when you do that, you will reprogram the way that you relate to yourself and your world. You will no longer be a mind-led woman, but you'll be a body-led woman. And the path that carves out for you will be miracles. You will be in the unfolding of life rather than trying to control it. And so I would start with minimizing distraction, using your body as a guide. And once you use your body as a guide and you're in flow, because some of you guys are, I want to speak to those women who know that they're in flow, they're in guidance. I want you to integrate your masculine energy to take ownership, to drop into your body to do what I call big womb energy and to increase your capacity to hold more, to be responsible for more, and to contribute to the world in a more powerful way. So I don't know if that's simple enough, but
yes,
yeah,
keep going. We're taking it in. Keep going. You preaching to us right now. I'm thinking, honestly, you are in flow, and I know y'all are hearing it. That big womb energy is real. Energy. She taught me big decision energy.
Yes.
Like big decision energy, like being able to have that big decision energy.
BDE?
Yes.
WE? BDE? BDE, not big energy. We're talking big decision energy. That's going to change everything. Everybody wants to say, I want to manifest this and I want to create this in my life, but it starts with a decision. And then once you make that decision, the path will carve out for you.
Yes.
But if you're not connected to your body, you're going to have a lot of suffering and unnecessary confusion and doubt. Yes. Because you're not connected to your most precious resource, which is your feminine intuition. And so, yeah, that's what I have to say about that.
That's incredible. I want to add to, because I know what you do.
Yeah.
She takes care of her body. She works out and she's very disciplined. I think that's so essential. Movement, sis. Your body, this is your temple. This is your vessel that carries you through this world, and you must exercise it. You must move the energy. You must feed it nutrition. I know you meal prep. This girl meal preps, like the pretty meal prep. I'm not her, but I'm gonna eat healthy, and I'm gonna eat healthy, and I'm gonna make it.
I'm not always her.
So it's important though.
Yes, being nourished.
So important.
Yeah.
And all of this is going to become and create the female embodied woman that you desire to be. So now, sis, we here.
Yeah.
So now, as a boss, as a coach, when did you decide to step into this higher part of your calling, your education, your speaking? When was it, me, Loralei, I'm ready?
Yeah. I think that, some of us are afraid because that's such a big question, like, what is my purpose? But your purpose evolves as you evolve, and it takes on a life of its own. And because I'm committed to being the vessel, I'm open to pivot. I'm open to be transformed, and I'm open to listen to whatever that is. And so I knew I wanted to help people. I just didn't know how. And we have these little dark nights of the soul. And I'm a Scorpio, so rebirth and death are like my middle name. But once you do it so many times, you know it. You're just
I've done
like
so many times, baby.
Right?
Yep.
And you
preaching to the yes.
And
I know
that when you go through that, now it's just like, okay, I know what to expect.
Yes.
And so if you're willing to die 1,000 times, you're willing to be reborn in a more powerful way and let it take on a life of its own. So when I went to school for psychology, I thought I wanted to be a psychologist. Then once I got introduced to spirituality through my mentor, I was like, I don't want my PhD anymore because it wasn't resonating. And so I integrated that and I did self-empowerment and self-love. And then once I felt empowered, once you feel empowered and once you have your needs met, you're ready to contribute. It's not about me anymore. So then your path changes again. You're more self-actualized and you're ready to contribute. So that's the journey that I took. And right now there's two ways that comes out is, number one, I have to teach women how to co-create with the divine. And it's simple and it's subtle, but it's a practice. When a monk meditates every day, you're like, wow, how does this monk have, it's not because they had this huge grand epiphany. It's because they practice these tiny practices over time. And so my commitment is helping women co-create with the infinite. And then my other commitment is that in that co-creation, I help them connect to their divine assignment and do what I can to help them build that in the world. So whether that's courses, retreats, services, I work with a lot of other embodied feminine leaders so that they can get their gifts out to the world. So mostly creativity,
yes,
but one in a spiritual sense and one in a very pragmatic sense.
To be able to hold that much space, to be able to give all that energy and to uplift us, it takes a lot.
Yes.
It takes a lot of energy. I know us. We're a lot. I'm a lot. We're a lot. We are. And it's such a gift that you have to be able to hold that space. I say this and I say this often. Sis, You hold so much on your shoulders day in and day out by just being a woman, period. Naturally, we're nurturers. Naturally, we're taking care of the home, kids, working. Like, this is what we do. We hold it on us. You have to find time to release and get into your creative spirit and find women or men, whatever you choose, to help you to bring and to support your dreams, to find
support.
your purpose. Yes, support.
That part. I would be nothing without the support that I have. I'm proud of the team that I built, the friends that I built. I'm proud of it because I'm really nothing without it. First started out being supported by the infinite, by God. And then, having that in this reality is so crucial. And I just have to say that if you don't feel like you resonate with the people around you, keep going. It took me many, many circles, many, many times, many, many lives. And every time I died, the external had to go with it.
Yes.
And I had to step into something new. And I'm stepping into something new again right now, but I'm willing and I trust.
Can we talk about
that?
this?
Yeah.
Because this has been hard for me. It's been a challenge for me as a woman. When I death and I rebirth, there's a part of me that holds on to friendships that I can still love from afar, but I still keep them because there's this abandonment issue that I have, right? And I'm learning this now that there are parts of me that are dead, but I keep these old attachments, these old energies still on me. But if I really want to step into my higher self, I have to let certain things go. And I heard Michelle Obama talk about this. Michelle Obama lately, if you have been listening to her interviews, she has been speaking so much truths and genuine experiences of her life. She said, not everybody can go where you're going. Not everybody is ready to go where you're going. And yes, it's hard. It's hard not to take them with you. And I'm learning this right now. It's hard. How do you do that? How, in your death and rebirth, how do you hold so much strength to let go?
I have a core value and it's spaciousness. And that goes in so many different areas, but this is one of them. I have to be willing to, I always say, don't fill the void, feel the void. So in the space that you have to, if you want to call in something new, you have to create space for it. And it's hard because you have comfort with certain people. It's difficult. It's so difficult. I'm not going to sit here and lie and say that it isn't, or that I don't have dreams about my former best friends. And feel like I want to reach out to them, and just knowing with the higher amount of truth that this is not in resonance anymore. And just for now, we are not resonating. And it's also the labor of cultivating new friendships too. And so there's this thing, I went to school also to be a holistic health coach. I got certified. And they call this thing crowding out. So they say never tell someone to stop eating cookies, to stop eating sweets.
Right.
Tell them to eat more veggies. And as they integrate more good, the other stuff, and it's the same thing I feel like with our friendships. I don't think you would have that same inner dilemma if you were getting the nourishment from friendships that were feeding you. And we don't always have that. So we need to hold the space. Yes. But when we do, we get to nurture. We get to nurture those ones. And that can feel like labor sometimes, because it's like, oh, I don't know. I mean, we're new friends.
Yes, we are.
It's like, hey.
We are. And we're learning.
Yes, we're learning.
But I had to make space for this.
Yes.
And let things go. And it's so inspiring to hear how you go about that, because just right now it's not resonating, and that's okay, because maybe we'll reconnect later on in life. There is still love. I still have love for them. But right now where I'm going, I gotta go.
And I can feel where you're going to. It's palpable.
Thank you. And I just want to say, we are starting a new friendship. So if for any of y'all that are in this transition, we had an instant connection. Yeah. We went to a gathering. So if y'all moved somewhere new, if you're in new situations, look where people are gathering. Find spaces, experience events. Like-minded women are there.
Yeah.
We ran into each other. We were talking about men, obviously, sis. We connected. There was no hesitation. I saw myself in her immediately.
Yeah.
And in this moment, I was like, oh, she's going to be my friend.
Yeah.
She's going to be my friend.
Yeah.
And having you on the show today, I knew I was going to learn so much more about you.
Aww.
And it's such a gift to sit here, to not only help me and to see me in you, but for every other woman on the other side right now that's seeing themselves in you and in us in this new relationship. Yeah. And I'm so excited to explore you deeper and our friendship deeper.
Yay.
I am so proud of you.
I'm proud of you.
The woman that you are, the woman that you're becoming. If any of the women want to get in touch with you, I know I am in one of her courses. It's called 88 Aligned, and it's an empowering group of women supporting each other, growing on this evolving circle of life. Mm-hmm. How can people get in touch with you? How can they become a part of your world?
Yeah.
And your offerings?
So I'm most active on Instagram, Loralei Bayette.
Yes.
And then my website is loraleibayette.com. It's being redone right now, but Loralei Bayette on Instagram. I am someone who likes to speak to the people that message me. Yes. I am not one of those people who don't reply back. I see you as a real human on the other side, and so feel free to reach out to me and just tell me what impacted you. Tell me your thoughts. Let's create a connection. My interest is in creating community and expanding my reach in more, what's the word? Accessible ways, because I used to be mostly a high ticket guide.
Yes.
And so I'm expanding how I am able to reach people through my container. So if you want to learn how to co-create in a simplified way, you can go to 88 Aligned. And if you want to learn how to be an embodied feminine leader, if you want to lead from your feminine essence, go to Loralei Bayette.
Yes.
Or both.
Yes. Go to those websites, because I'm telling you, it's changing my life. I actually had one of our girlfriends sign up as well as a gift, and she loves it. It's changed her life, and I'm seeing her like be in her feminine and embody her, and I'm just like, you are doing this. You are such a vessel. And I always say this, she just gives us the tools. She gives us what we need, and it's up to you to embody it, to integrate it into our lives. So before we go and honor Black History Month and International Women's Month, I want to know, if you were able to look at another beautiful Black woman right now, let's go back to that Black girl, young Loralei, that is seeking to find, whether it's love, whether it's home, whether it's a belonging, what would you tell that little beautiful Black girl? Speaking to yourself.
Yeah.
Yeah.
There's so many things I would tell her. That you don't need to perform in order to be loved. That to learn your history, learning my history as a Black woman empowered me, especially growing up around mostly white people.
Yes.
Learning my history let me know I was a queen, period. And a story.
Yes.
And obviously, just to reiterate the same common theme, is to connect to something larger than you. And that true belonging, Brene Brown talks about this, true belonging is not in fitting in with everyone else. It's in being able to be in your own authentic expression and belong anyway. And so I encourage people to step and stretch more into their truth, more into who they authentically are, and still maintain connection with other people in that, especially for Black women, and drop the stories. Once you validate the story or your experience, your true life experience of it not being fair or whatever it is, we got to drop that story at some point. And that's controversial. But at some point after we've validated ourselves, don't skip this part because you'll resent me for this, resent yourself. But after you have honored your stories as a Black woman, drop the disempowering one. Turn that story into an empowering one. I am not a victim. I am not oppressed. When I walk in a room, people adore me. And I belong here. And I don't go into the world with those assumptions because, again, my ownership to take responsibility for what I'm putting out and how that's creating my reality, we must return to that power, especially as Black women, so that the world will reflect that to us, that we are embodied, that we are beautiful, that we are the original design, period. And if you don't believe that, then other people won't. So you have to embody that for yourself first.
Tell them, sis. Tell them.
Yes.
That is so powerful. And it's a practice. Sis.
Yes.
But you got this and you can do this. Loralei will be speaking a lot this year. We are so excited. I will keep you up to date. Yeah, I remember we had a lunch date and I told her, I said, I think you should be a speaker. I see my people and I always speak into them, and she received it, and she'll be speaking at a lot of events. So stay up to date with that. Make sure you stay along the journey of Loralei, because this woman is in full bloom, and it's just a journey. It's a gift to be a part of your journey. Aww. And I want to give you your flowers. Nona of Mixed Girls Forest has created this beautiful bouquet for you. Beautiful. Because sis, you deserve all the flowers, baby.
Thank you.
You deserve them every day, every moment, for the rest of your life. Aww. Your story is so empowering. I'm so proud of the woman you are, and the woman you're becoming, the woman you were. I wish I could hug little Loralei. Oh. I wish I could hug her so tight. But I get to love you now, and I just want to say thank you for having the courage to share your story. For impacting all of us. And girl, we got this. We got this.
We got this, right?
We got this.
Yeah.